there's clearly no excitement for this election because of the fact that I think even though people are quite resigned to a Labour victory, no one genuinely believes that a change in government will change things that dramatically.
The only dramatic change that might happen, because I agree there's a paper, cigarette paper between them.
Yeah.
If Labour gets in, it'll be far, far worse for women.
Yeah.
Because there's been no indication, as far as I could see, that Labour show any regret for the way their activists have been treating Rosie Duffield. In fact, they had a recent soiree in Kent, I think, which is where Rosie is MP, and they didn't invite her. So you've got I don't know. I mean, I know it's not the key thing for many people. I found that out to my cost, but it's the only significant difference that I can see.
It is a dividing line. And I think, if you broaden it out to the question of identity politics generally, you could say that, yes, Labour is slightly worse on these issues, or maybe even a lot worse on these issues. I mean, it's not just the trans question. There's going to be a Racial Equality Act, which is kind of going to bring DEI stuff through the back door, even while that is, being discredited the world over. As you say, you mentioned, trans, they're kind of proposing bringing a kind of form of self-ID, not full-blown self-ID, but through the back door.
Basically, your kind of local doctor can just sign you off.
Yes, and he better if he doesn't want to get his head kicked in.
Yeah, exactly. And or net zero or something like that. They both agree on it, but the Tories are slightly more wary of it. I mean, Tom, what do you make of that?
Well, I think the problem is, because you're absolutely right, there are some clear dividing lines. The gender one is really quite stark. Anything kind of identity politics related. Keir Starmer's team clearly know that they have to try and shift closer towards the common sense public position on these things. But at the same time, their base of support, the sort of people who are really the main constituency of the Labour Party now, kind of the metropolitan upper middle classes really, are really in favour of this stuff. Yeah. And they will drag them further in that direction, kicking and screaming if necessary. I think the difficulty is that a lot of people have looked at the Conservatives and have concluded that at best they can slow this stuff down by a few years. And I think that was really summed up by the other day. You had one of these supposedly brilliant announcements from the government, which is that they're finally going to bring in sex education guidance, and that therefore we're not going to teach your kids crazy gender stuff until they're at least 9. That was kind of the conclusion of it. And I know that they're taking gender out of the equation there, but I think it was a reminder of the fact that it feels too little too late for some people.
But then again, like the Conservatives immediately changed the rules at the NHS to make sure that they weren't prescribing puberty blockers to under 16. And you have to understand that's a huge moment. And I'm saying this, sorry, so patronising, you have to understand, but I know that it's a huge moment because I was just recently in Australia, and the mood from the beginning of the trip to the end of the trip completely changed because people were so energised and so excited and so happy about the NHS is, like the BBC, regardless of how much they've been trashing their reputation with gender stuff, they are still very significant institutions abroad. So when they make a change like that, you're going to see a domino effect all through the world. And we already have been,
Yeah, definitely. And what do you make of Keir Starmer as a figure, our next Prime Minister, if the polls are anything to be believed? Someone we can trust, someone we can...
I'll never vote for him. There's a thing in script writing called show don't tell, which you might have heard of. And it basically means that if I get angry, I kick this table over, although I wouldn't have the strength, instead of telling you that I'm angry, Keir Starmer is a master of tell, don't show. His characters, his party will say anything, because they've already proved they could say anything. When people like David Lammy get on screen and say that men can grow a cervix, so they've proved that they will just say anything. So it really is in the actions, and the only action they need to do to get a little bit closer to the centre is apologise to Rosie Duffield. They have to say, sorry, she has received incredible abuse from lunatics in her party, who are the same lunatics who are now saying that the Cass review isn't a robust study, So I don't like him. I'll never vote for him. I don't trust him, and I certainly don't trust him on women's rights. And I'm a kind of single issue voter, as you might know at the moment.